Cool.
So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Mind Your Own Black Business with me, your host, Ade Gideon Shakoya. And as you know, this platform exists to promote UK Black businesses. And today I'm honored to have the founder and owner of the UK's first Black grooming line. I believe that's correct. He's featured on Forbes, GQ, BBC News, and many other platforms. And he creates a product that I'm interested in because I need it too. So his name is Aaron Wallace. But hey, Aaron, thank you for taking the time to joining us today.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So before we get started, can you just take a quick moment to tell the listeners a bit about who you are and your background, please?
Yeah, so my name is Aaron, founder of by Aaron Wallace Grooming. A little bit about me. I began as a barber, and I had a shop in Southeast London, and essentially I was cutting every day, working with black men every day, cutting and styling their hair, and I kind of realized that there was a lot of similar issues that many of the men were facing, and so just through conversations every day, speaking with black men, I kind of went into developing products that could help with those issues that we were facing. And yeah, also on top of that, I was finding it difficult myself to find products that were made for our hair types, like in your local shops. And that's kind of
Awesome.
that was the origin.
Great stuff. I'd like to even expand a bit more on there because it sounds like in there somewhere there might be some tips about how people go about identifying a niche. So walk us through that. So you're a barber, you've been doing barbering, and you're sitting down, you're with your customers. What type of things triggered in your head that actually maybe there might be something here? The reason why I asked that question is because there are many barbers and many barber shops, and surely they're facing the same issues. What made you think, there's something in this for me?
Yeah, well, do you know what it is? I've always had a bit of interest in more of the business side of things. So I mean, even when I was first opening the barber shop, my original plan was to so when I first went into barbering, my original vision for the barber shop was to kind of have a a barbershop that was on the same benchmark as, say, a Tony and Guy. So I wanted to kind of operate with a booking system. I wanted to offer the top premium service that we was able to offer. Um, Men were able to get massaged their facials. We had a massage therapist that worked upstairs. The goal was to kind of offer the full works. And in that offering, I was always interested to learn from my clients, like how can we be serving your needs better? How can we improve what we're offering at the moment? So those conversations led me to be even more kind of I had more of an observational eye on what kind of issues our customers were facing and what kind of commonalities that they were that many of my clients were facing. And so when I was cutting hair and the common question that I would get asked is, how do I grow a fuller beard, or how do I get my beard to grow fuller, or I've got a patch here, or I'm receding here, or my hair's flaking here, and I found that they were very common themes among the questions that I was being asked, and I realized that most of it comes down to our hair type. Because of our Afro hair type, it's very prone to dryness, especially in the UK. So because our hair is so coily, it means that your body's natural oils cannot always reach the end of the strands of the hair, which means our hair is very, very prone to drying out and becoming brittle and just getting damaged. So I kind of realized that when I was having these conversations, and it eventually got to, okay, so what product should I be using on the hair? It was always like, well, there's not really much in the UK for it. There wasn't really anywhere that I could like direct people to say, use this product or use that product or go here or go there. It's because even if there was something that I could recommend, to even direct them to like their local black hair shop was a bit of a treasure hunt in itself. So I noticed that first they would have to go on a treasure hunt to find a shop that does products for black hair. and then it was a bit of another treasure hunt to find the products that they need for their beard or their specific issues. So I thought, you know what, they're in the barbershop already. My clientele is all black men. I'm trying to offer the best service possible. We should be filling that niche there and also be able to offer a solution to this problem that so many black men are facing. So that was kind of the birth of how I began looking into creating a product range and exactly what that product range needs to be.
Wow. I mean, that's a really interesting story. I mean, when you was just talking about some of the conversations you were having, that reminded me of me and my barbers. I mean, the
Yeah,
typical conversations. How do you grow a beard? How do you get this beard?
yeah.
How do I get beard like Mr. So-and-so over there? All those
Yeah,
questions.
because essentially you become like their hair doctor. As the barber, you're like their hair doctor. Do you know what I mean? You're the first person that men will come to when they have any questions about their hair or their beards. It's just natural.
Of course, because you guys are in a place of trust, right? When I come by here, it's like me, and I'm not most like guys, most probably out there. We have select barbers. It's like no
Exactly.
random could touch your head. Like no. Oh wait, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
Great, but I hear you telling that story because from a lean startup perspective, it sounds like you went through that whole cycle. First of all, you spent time talking to potential customers, clients who are identifying a problem. And one of the key things we always say in business is if you want to make money, find a big problem and solve it. And it's
yeah,
like quickly identified that actually there's a problem here. Plus, out there isn't actually anything ready available. So you got yourself in and you did it. So good on you. So my
yeah.
next question is lots of people have ideas. They say the graveyard is full of ideas, right? People have ideas, they have dreams, but they never follow through. What were the first steps without giving away any of your business secrets? What were some of the first steps you took when you realized, hey, there might be something here?
Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, and I say the same thing. Like, anyone can have ideas, but it comes down to like how you execute it and how you kind of implement it. And for me, I always felt that I'm not I don't consider myself like the most super intelligent or the most like knowledgeable when it comes to business acumen or anything like that. But I know that I'm someone that I will sit down for hours and hours and hours at my desk until I figure something out. Like, and I will
Okay.
I consider myself like a bit of a workhorse in that sense. Like I will sit down until I've figured it out like a strategy. So in terms of how I went about things, the first thing I did was kind of look at, okay, what problem are we solving for? Like, what is the problem that we're trying to provide a solution for? And like I said, the common theme was dryness. So much of the problem that we have with Afro hair is that it's very prone to dryness. So I thought, okay, so I need to create a product range that addresses the issue of dryness, and the ingredients, I need to find the ingredients that solve those problems. So the first thing that I did was look into what ingredients are really key that need to go into the product. So I done a lot of research into all of the different ingredients that were on the market, and I remembered hearing so much about black seed oil that was one of my key ingredients that after I done my research on black seed oil, I was like, this has to be in the range. And so black seed oil is one of those ingredients that's been used for thousands of years.
Okay.
It's like it's almost mythical in the sense that it was used in ancient Egypt. It was found, they found black seed oil in the tomb of Tutankhamun. Um, if you're religious, the Prophet Muhammad said that it's the cure for everything except death. So it's one of those it's one of those ingredients. It's been used for hair, for skin, internally, externally. It's been used for illnesses. It's been used for so many different medicinal purposes. And once I'd done the research on black seed oil to find out, like, is this like all hype, or is this really just, is there actually proven studies into this? And I'm a bit of a nerd myself. I'm really into, like, I do like a bit of science, and I'm a bit of like the whole critical thinking side of things as well. So
Okay, good.
I
Good.
looked into some scientific studies that have tested black seed oil and the efficacy of black seed oil, and I'm like, okay, like this is a really good ingredient. So that was the first ingredient, and then the other one was mango butter. So we found that the butter from mango, when you whip it into a butter and from the inside of the skin of the mango, it's really good for hydrating the hair. It's really good for keeping the
Okay.
lipids into the hair. So those were the two ingredients that we said, okay, these are going to be our hero ingredients that's going to go into all of our product range at launch. And once we kind of had that, then it was more looking at, okay, so we're looking at it from a perspective of, I know that most men are thinking of just their beard, but we're looking at it as, how do you create healthy afro hair? Because when you have
Okay.
healthy afro hair, it solves all of the problems. Like, it solves the problems of beard growth, it solves the problem of dryness, dandruff, receding hair. Healthy hair is basically the what we're all trying to achieve, whether we know it or
Yeah.
not. So we looked into that and we done a lot of research into that. And yeah, so that's kind of how we developed our range. And we realized that a lot of the products that we're using, so say for example, if we're using a shampoo that contains sulfates and any kind of parabens, they can actually be doing more damage than good to our hair, especially, as I said, our key problem is dryness. So
Sure.
with those shampoos, they often they work too well, if that makes sense, to the point that they're actually stripping your scalp of all of its natural oils. So,
Okay.
so we said we want to have a natural based shampoo that doesn't strip the hair of its actual, that cleanses without stripping the hair. So it's not too abrasive, it's not too harsh. And then the second thing is a conditioner. So the conditioner does exactly what it says on the tin, in that it improves the actual condition of the hair itself. So whereas your hair may be, the strand of hair may be fraying, if so to speak, that means that you're going to lose a lot of moisture from the strand of hair.
Okay.
Whereas the conditioner smooths that hair, so you get a nice smooth shaft of hair, which again keeps the moisture in the hair for longer. Then the third step is our moisturizer, again, adding moisture to the hair. And then the final step is our hair and beard oil. So the oil, the previous the previous three steps are all water based to add the
Right. Okay.
hydration into the hair. And then the oil is obviously oil based, and that acts as a sealant to stop it slows down the process of the water based evaporating in the hair, and keeps the softness and the water in for longer, the hydration in for longer. And
Wow.
so yeah, so after we done all of that, it was just finding a manufacturer. And then so that was the next, so that was the kind of the first stage, was developing what we want and what we're trying to achieve. And then next was finding a manufacturer who was able to work with a small startup brand and was able to source the ingredients that we need, and that was also able to work with such a small company, because we was a startup.
Yep.
And
Sure.
a lot of these manufacturers, um, a lot of them work with large companies, so there's very high minimum order quantities and stuff like that. So yeah, so that the stage one was development, and stage two was finding a manufacturer who was able to work with smaller quantities so that we could get the ball rolling.
Awesome. Great stuff. So, I mean, it sounds like you really has been through the whole cycle, which is also very good to see. In a moment, we're going to talk about how that helped you to get on Forbes, GQ, and other interesting platforms like that. But also, because I mean, a lot about business, as you will know, is about the mindset as well. Did you face any obstacles, challenges along the way to starting your business? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Um, I think in the very, very early stages, the most of the obstacles and challenges are internal. Like I think a lot of the obstacles that you face are internal. So it's like you haven't. I always say that starting a business is like, it's like walking into a dark room and there's no light, and you're fumbling around trying to find the light switch until you can finally turn the lights on, and it's like, okay, now you can kind of start to navigate. So
Mm-hmm.
the very early stages, when you don't really know what you're doing and you're making mistakes and you're clunking around and you're questioning yourself on, can I really do this? Should I be doing this? Like, do I know what I'm doing? Or you've got issues of what's the word? Not self-doubt. Procrastination, like you're delaying things, like you're like you know what you need to do, but you're not doing it. And all of these things are is all mental barriers that we give ourselves. So for me, I would say in the very early stages that it was all of the I faced all of those kind of mental subconscious things. And it was a lot of I really got into meditation during that time to kind of help me just focus my mind. And I think that, like I said, I'm someone that will just sit at my desk for hours until I figure something out. And one of my business mentors always said it's about having laser focus on what it is that you're trying to achieve. So I done a lot of meditation, which helped me to kind of get through that
Mm,
and kind of reprogram my subconscious, if that makes sense. So a lot of the time, a lot of these mental things we don't a lot of the time we're not even conscious of the fact that we tell ourselves so many negative things all the time. But when you start to become conscious of your thoughts and you start to actually listen to your thoughts and you realize how much negative reinforcement that you're giving yourself, like
mm.
it's crazy. So I started to kind of change those negative reinforcements that I was giving myself and focus more on positive affirmations and, looking at my track record and what I have done and what I have achieved and using that as inspiration to go even further and take it further. And another thing is reading. I've done a lot of reading, and I think that I I I I always say that competence equals competence equals confidence. So a lot of the time, if I'm not feeling very strong in an area, that can lead me to procrastinate because I'm actually subconsciously putting that task off. Whereas if I when I spend a lot of time after I've read up on the subject, I find that as I'm reading up on it and all of these ideas start to come to me, I'm so excited. I'm now excited to get going on what it is that I need to do. So yeah, so I would say like the main obstacles was literally myself and internal struggles, and the way I overcome that was just through reading a load of books and meditation really helped.
I'm really glad you touched on that. I mean, in the work that I do as a business consultant, part of that work is helping people to understand. Here's my stats. They say 9 out of 10 stats are made up on the spot anyway. So here's my stats. But I always say that success in business or any endeavor is actually 90% in here,
Mm,
because it's not so much about what happens out there, whether you succeed or not, right? It's how do you deal with the pressure? How do you get back up? How do you take everything that somebody might see as a failure as a learning opportunity and keep going?
yeah,
That's why it's not uncommon for many entrepreneurs who you see as successful have had many business failures. Simply why? Because they cast the net wide. They
yeah.
keep on trying things, and they never give up. But going back to your point you're saying before, unfortunately, a lot of people at the other end of the spectrum, which is to have an idea, but the fear of the darkness of what's unknown is enough to lead to procrastination and everything else.
Mhm.
So moving on from there, so how did you get yourself or your brand onto Forbes, GQ, and BBC News, and other platforms? How did you make that
Um,
happen?
so it's funny because so essentially when we launched, we we wrote a press release and we really didn't have any idea of how much impact it was going to have. Like I know that from my kind of small focus groups that we had done, and from obviously being in the barbershop, and from being a black man and experiencing myself, I knew internally that it was a huge problem that we were solving, but I didn't have any idea on the kind of response that we would have once we launched. So, and it's crazy because as we started developing the range and the product range, and it's like you always do your market research and you look at okay who's competitors, like who are your
Sure.
competition, etc., etc. and it's like, hold on, wow, there's actually no black owned grooming companies that are doing what we're doing in the UK. In the US, they have a few, but we're actually the first guys that's doing it here in the UK. So we was like, well, yeah, when we wrote our press release and kind of launched under that banner, it kind of just took on a life of itself, to be honest. Like we reached out to a whole load of bloggers and writers to see if they'd be interested in publishing our press release, and we got loads of like just non-replies, like loads of non-replies. And then we had two or three that was like, okay, like we ran it and they put it up. And then it just started getting so much feedback, so much attention. Like the shares were crazy, like my phone was beeping crazy. Like it was really
Right.
like it wasn't I would love to say like we planned it all like exactly like that, but it really was like we didn't expect that kind of response. So
Sure.
from that, it was kind of like a domino effect where GQ reached out to us and there's like, we're putting together some brands, some up and coming brands, and we think that you guys fit. Would you be interested? Of course, definitely. So we
Right,
featured,
let me think about it. I'll get back to
right? So it's like, so we're like, yeah, of course, definitely. So then once you feature in Forbes, you get someone else. Oh, I mean, once you feature in GQ, you get someone else. Oh, I saw you in GQ. We're from Forbes. We'd like to feature you as well. And then it's kind of like a snowball. Like everyone's once you get that ball rolling, you get more people that come towards you and approach you. And so yeah, so we did reach out to loads of writers in the beginning, but it is largely about traction.
So let me ask you a question. This is just a personal question. Everyone else close their ears. So, out of some of the people who rejected you initially, right?
Hmm.
After you got your Forbes and GQ, did some of them reach out back to you again? And did you like, nah, I'm not interested.
To be honest, like I'm one of those people that like my frame of mind is that you're always gonna have hurdles.
Of course.
Like I kind of go into it with the mindset that you're gonna have hurdles, and I also go into it with the mindset of sometimes things are just not the right time.
Of
So,
course.
like for example, we get people that reach out to us all the time and want to do this and want to do that, and sometimes we have to say no. It's not because we don't want to work with them or that we don't think it's great. Sometimes it's just that we've kind of planned out what our next few moves are, and it doesn't align in exactly what we're doing at that present time. So sometimes we might want to loop back with them at a later date. So I I try to, as much as possible, have that frame of mind that you know what, it might just be it is what it is kind of thing. So I don't really like
There you go.
I try not to hold anything like that. So
That's good. That's good. Because
yeah,
that's even one of the key factors that of successful entrepreneurs is that mindset of accepting that you're going to be rejected. Rejection is part of the process.
yeah,
Things are not always going to go as you want.
yeah.
And also, I like the fact that you highlighted because that's also something that a lot of business owners forget, which is every opportunity is not an opportunity, right?
Hmm.
Some of them are hindrances, and sometimes you're going to know when to say, "Hey, now's not the right time. Now's not when." But of course, if Forbes or GQ calls, you drop everything. Right? Yeah, I'm available right now. Where do you need me? I'll stand any which way, go left, right. I'm here. So, as we start wrapping up, I know in your bio you talk about your company is dedicated towards inspiring Black men to be the best that they can be. What does that mean to you, and why is that an important aspect of your brand?
Do you know what? I think that like up until recently, like the public perception of black men has always been negative. Like when we
Up
think
until
of,
recently, has it changed recently?
well, I mean, I would say recently it's starting to change. I
Okay,
would say now, I would say like now within the last, 5, 6 years, there's a lot more positive images of black people than there used
of
to be.
course.
So when I kind of began the journey, it was like, I'm cutting all of these black men. And as you speak to your barber, like as a barber, I used to get into like deep conversations every
You get
day.
all the
Yeah,
lowdown, all the
yeah, I
news.
used to get into like five deep philosophical conversations like every day with different guys, and it's like there are so many like inspirational black men that are doing really great things, like in
Indeed.
all different walks of life. Like some of them
Indeed.
are like, some of my customers like running like huge businesses. Other of them were just like, a personal trainer, but he's really passionate and, like so many different things, but they're doing positive things in their own way. And it's
Mm,
like, you know what? Whenever I turn on the TV, I'm not receiving these messages. That I'm always receiving the negative stereotypes, and even like some of our media. I think that as much as we have like the Top Boy and all of those things, and as much as like I used to work for a youth charity, so I know that there are a lot of young black guys that are
of
going
course.
through that, and I used to help
Of
young
course.
guys going through that. But I think that it's important not to show us as one dimensional. When we see
Mm,
other cultures, when we see European cultures, we see them as the burglar and the policeman. We see them as the the we see them as the hero and the villain. Do you know what I mean? We see them in
of
all
course.
different kind of dimensions, and then it's whatever you relate to. But with us, I found that many of our depictions in media was always the same one dimension of what our culture is. And
Mm,
just from speaking with so many black men, it's like that's not reality. Do you know what I mean? There's so many people outside of that, and sometimes they can feel a little bit lost, or like that they're not part of the culture. You know what I mean? But it's like we can't blackness comes in all shapes and sizes, all shapes and sizes.
mm,
So I just think for us in our messaging and our branding, we want to highlight the positive side of black men. Like we want to shine a light on the positive aspects of black men, and it doesn't always have to be a huge superstar or a huge footballer or a huge entrepreneur. Sometimes it can just be a school teacher. Sometimes it can be just anything, but that's contributing and yeah, doing their thing. And we just want to
mm.
shine a light on that and highlight that and just put that out into the world.
That's really good on you. I mean, Circulate exists to promote businesses like yours, which are not only demonstrating how to build businesses, especially when we start talking about the Black economic movement, empowerment movement, but also with the right mindset, who understand the bigger context that we exist in. I think it was my guest Ron Daniel last week, and many of the other guests who we had a similar conversation around this, and the fact that actually there's so many positive black males in
Mm,
the community who are more easily accessible
hmm
in a physical form to these young people, but unfortunately, it's so much easier to access all the stuff that we see online, which, like you said, creates the personas, can lead to certain self images and self beliefs, which then create certain behaviors which reinforce
Yeah.
it. And we know
And
how that's
sometimes and sometimes it's like, if you're a young person, and even like myself, like I went through this as well. When you're younger and you want to be successful as you get older, but we're only shown two paths to success. We're often told that if you want to be successful, it's only music or sports, and that we kind of reinforce that, and we're kind of told that we can't do anything outside of that very
mm,
often. Um,
mm,
so we kind of end up going down these paths, which, if you're successful at it, happy days, like all
sure.
power to you. But it's a very, very like your chances of becoming a teacher and earning a nice healthy salary, or becoming a lawyer or a doctor and earning a nice healthy salary, doesn't have to be multiple millions, but earning a nice salary and living a very good life. Your the probability of you doing that, and the probability of becoming a worldwide superstar, there's a huge vastly difference. You know what I
Of
mean? like
course.
like there's a much higher probability of just finishing, getting your head down, focus, and becoming a doctor, than there is of becoming the next superstar. But
Mm,
everyone is going down the same route, which has a much smaller probability of actually coming to fruition. So we end up with loads of young black men that are disillusioned, because only so many people will get through that funnel. So what I want to do is show that yes, that is an option, like, even if you want to go down that route, that's great, because I'm still very much into music. I love music. I actually studied music at university, so
Wow.
music is a big passion of mine. So
Can you
but,
sing? Can you rap?
I used to play a little bit of piano.
Oh wow. Okay. Awesome.
And I was actually, funnily enough, before I started my business, I was actually going to do my PGCE and become a music teacher. That was what I was originally gonna do. So I think that always have something like that in your back pocket. That is like, I'm working on my law degree or my doctor's PhD or whatever it is that you're working on. And then, yeah, if you want to have a business that you're also growing, or you want to be into music, or you want to do whatever, that you want to also have something that is, has a smaller probability but a high reward, do that as well. But just have some kind of foundation as well, is what I always recommend. And yeah, man, like, I think that going into it with the mindset that it's not easy, like, one of the things with business as well is that, you know it's so easy to um explain it. Like, even when I'm explaining my journey right now, like, I explain it, like, for time, the steps that I took, but there are so many roller coaster ups and
Of
downs
course. Of
within
course.
that before I got to the point where I'm sitting here right now, there was so many ups and downs that you go
Of
through in
course.
business. It's a very bumpy road. And I mean, there are huge businesses, huge multiple million pound businesses that still have ups and downs. It's part of the journey. So I think,
Having over the years run a couple of multi-million-pound businesses, I can tell you that yes, in fact, the bigger the prize, the more the headache, the more the stress that goes with it.
yes,
Anyway,
yes,
sometimes you might even ask yourself, why am I doing all this again?
yes,
It's just part of the parcel. It goes with it. So
yeah,
that's why that inner
exactly,
resilience becomes really key. And I love
exactly.
what you said about, you're trying to inspire young people. And for me, I'm you might call me an old boy. So I'm 47, getting closer to the 50 than I am down the other way. I believe you might be from the young.
Don't look it, don't look it.
I'll thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just seeing these patterns and these cycles, and it's also recognizing, like you said, that actually, our young black boys go into primary school, they're top of their mark. By the time they get into secondary school, they get to the bottom of the kind of hierarchy in terms of attainment. Not that anything's happened really in here in terms of their mental abilities, but like you said, all the negative images, self-images that they're seeing that are coming to them, the teachers' interactions with them really have an impact to them. So yeah, it's not wonder that you see a large number of them getting expelled. They get to the point of end of secondary school whereby a lot of them think. But here's the thing about it as well. I think you touched on it. I think the proportion of people actually go into sport, go into illegal stuff, go into making music are very small as part of the whole population. However, we get bombarded with that so much on television that a
Yeah,
lot of these young people think, hey, this is the only way out. And then
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah. 110%, man. 100%.
Awesome. Great stuff. So one of the things I do as a lean startup person is I like to do experiments. And guess what, Aaron? You have pulled the rabbit out of the hat. So here's a new section that I'm trying to introduce to see how it goes, to see how it works, right? Which is called Ones to Watch. So here's how it's going to work. It's an experiment. We're going to see how it goes and see whether or not this is something that can be easily incorporated into the show. So what do? I do this. So this is for the listeners. Here's just a few things that have been happening this week that in terms of you might want to check out. So have you seen this film? Aaron, have you seen
I
this film?
haven't. I haven't. No, I haven't.
Watch this film. It's a really good film. The listeners out there, it's on Netflix. It's about the young black boys' experience growing up in white UK, but then also black UK, and also some of the things and some of the inner challenges that a lot of young black boys face that leads to them sometimes making the wrong decisions. Okay.
Okay.
And it also draws it from a social, demographic, personal. It's a really, really,
Mm,
really good film. So if you're watching this right now, I encourage you to watch this. Aaron, you've got the right mindset. It's a good one to watch.
definitely.
Here's another one to watch, which is Olotore. I know my Nigerian brothers and sisters, the Yorubas will be laughing and say, I did your Yoruba is no good. Anyway, this is also a really impactful film, which is on Netflix. I'm also noticing that Netflix has got quite a few black films out. Hoping it's not just for Black history, because I'm really enjoying these films and I'm actually getting to relate to them personally. So maybe I'm getting even more connected. But this is a really good film. It's about the Nigerian slave trafficking in terms of prostitution. And it's a really, really deep film, really interesting film. Gives you a different insight into some of the stuff that people go through and how they end up where they are. So I would encourage you to try and watch that if you may. And some of you might have been aware of the Taking Initiative Party. So this is a new political party which has started in the UK. It's a black party. It comes from the Black Lives Matter movement. Got there in the end, right? I love what they're saying here. Stand for something or fall for anything. And hashtag is one voice. I suggest you pop over to their website, have a look at some of what they're proposing as, I believe, the first UK black party, and some of the things that they are looking to introduce as part of their manifesto. I will reach out to them, and God willing, we'll be able to get them on the show, which will then provide us an opportunity to be able to discuss a few more things with them.
Amazing. Yeah. I had no idea. No idea. That's cool. Very cool.
Things are happening. Do you know what I mean? Things are happening, and I've always said, you know, I always said that the whole empowerment movement, in my opinion, especially in the UK, has to be double-pronged or multi-pronged actually. But some of the key elements is the economic side and the political side. We've got to have political representation and money. Community money is what enables you to be able to sit at the political table and have some clout.
100%.
You hear me saying it every show. 30 billion an annual we spend as a community. We have buying power. How do we bring that all together? So,
and it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow.
It's only going to grow. The key is, can we keep that money in the community? We won't have time to discuss it here, but at the moment, I think the stats are something along the lines, 30 days, money stays 30 days in the Asian community, something like, 21 days in the Jewish community, 17 days in the white community, but less than a day in the black community. So more money coming in, unless we can retain it, it's not necessarily going to help us as a community.
It needs to cycle much more.
There you go, which is why we got it's okay, there it is, it's up there somewhere. Right, and then finally, if you're watching this and you would like to promote your business on this talk show, then feel free, send an email to circulate.info@circulate.co.uk and we'll get back to you. Awesome. So Aaron, I really appreciate what you have done. What I'm going to ask you is two things. First one is actually three things in one. Here's how it works. 3 tips that you've got for anybody who's listening out there who's a startup trying to build their business.
So 3 tips I would say is 1, become your own teacher. So you have to, like I said, it's there's a lot to learn, and you really have no idea how much there is to learn until you start. And then once you start, you're going to wish you started earlier. So read as much as you can. If you can find I find 1 or 2, even if they're online mentors, like people that like yourself, Ade, and others who find someone that you resonate with that's giving you this business tips and business knowledge, and just follow them religiously and read as much as you can. And also have the mindset that it's not easy, and there's no instant gratifications in business. Business is all about delayed gratification. So taking the long road, and you get the most rewards. So just know that it's a long process and there's a lot of work to be done, but there's great rewards at the end of it.
Awesome. Some really good tips there. Thank you. So I did say that there was 2 questions. The first one was made up of 3, which you did very well. I didn't do too well at GCS maths, but I'm getting there. Here's the second question, which is just one question. I personally am interested in some of your products. As you can see, I want to grow a beard as well. I want to grow a nice, long, thick beard. Where can we get hold of some of your products? Do you have any special offers for the listeners? I'll put you on the spot. Yes.
So we can. Do you know what? I'll do a discount code for you guys, and you can share it on your channels afterwards. But you can find us at buyaaronwallace.com. So BY and then aaronwallace.com. And on our Instagram, the same, byaaronwallace.com, Facebook, everything byaaronwallace.com.
Awesome. Really appreciate that. So thank you very much, Aaron. It's really great to see that you're doing well. It's great to hear some of the things that you shared. And I'm hoping that this will inspire some of the listeners as well who may have dreams, who may be going through the kind of downs of building what they've started on, but just recognizing, hey, you are in the right place. Do not quit. Do not give up, right? The lows are the lows, which means the highs are higher, and it's just part of the journey. There's no level of success you're going to have in business that you're not going to have to deal with that. So just get used to it, enjoy the ride, and know that seasons come and they change.
Put it this way, pretty much every successful entrepreneur that we all look up to has had failures. So it is part of the process, and it is, it's battle scars, and you'll find that a lot of the times when you get to certain levels, people don't want to work with you if you have never had failures before. So it's part of the growing process. So
that's the interesting thing. So in the States, they won't give you a loan for a business unless you can demonstrate, or in some places, you can demonstrate that you've had a number of failed businesses. Why? Because they recognize you're not going to take my money and be the first one to fail with my money. Go fail with my money. To me. I always say to people, no matter how many times you fail in business, there's always hope, because maybe one day you'll become the president of the United States too.
There you go. There you go.
Aaron, once again, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me,
to all the listeners who've joined us. So we'll be back here next Tuesday, 8 p.m. BST. I think it's still BST. The clocks are not going forward as of yet. So 8 p.m. BST, we're back here with another guest to discuss Mind Your Own Black Business. Until then, have a blessed week. And once again, Aaron, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, man.
Cheers.
All the best.
Bye.